everyone, and welcome to the YPN's GIS Roundtable discussion series. My name is Lakshmi, and I'll be the moderator for today's episode. This episode is all about women in GIS. And the reason we created this episode is because we wanted to empower young women and young professionals as they navigate themselves through this industry. So let's get into some of the questions.
Our first question for today is, we all know GIS is a demanding and evolving industry, which requires constant maintenance and upkeep. How are you able to manage and maintain your professional goals while continuing to balance your personal lives? I guess we'll start with Sabrina.
Okay, my honor. That's actually, I think, very good question. I think maybe in this panel, I'm the only one with young children right at this age. So for myself, I'm very struggling between the work-wise versus how make them really get my attention every day. And I'm still challenging right now, but I tried my best. So I think, first thing I want to emphasize is even I know the family responsibilities, one side thing we, as a woman, we have to be really careful. On the other side, I'm a career woman. I don't want to just give up my career just because of temporary family, things. And for myself, I think the things I learned in the past is you have to give up certain things. Myself is a freelancing, and as a freelancer, I think the most challenging things you cannot only focus on one thing. Say, okay, today you have a project which is related to GIS. Tomorrow you have another project which GIS mobile. So all those kind of different assets or different perspectives for your technologies, which you have to speed up yourself. So things I learned is, okay, myself, I will be a tech person. Okay, I'm a tech person head. Then I will kind of give up a little bit more regarding marketing, regarding, managing things, or regarding how can we more socialized with other things. So this is something I learned. I think whenever you get a challenge or whenever you are tight in time, you have to come up with an idea or which part you want to continue for your rest of your life, which part you need other people's help. So for me, I think Karen may know this. For my solution is I partner with other people. So whoever specialized in talking, specialized in social, specialized in marketing person. So we kind of a partnership together, and he can focus on his strengths, interest. I focus on the way I think I'm strengths with it. And at the same time, the reason I'm being a freelancer, my dream life is like, okay, I still be able to have my time to walk on the street with my boys every day. So I think I kind of already realized this dream. So I'm very kind of proud of this decision to quit my full-time job and to be a freelancer, and which is balance my life, not personal life and work. At the same time, I kind of get in touch with many interesting projects, and like Karen talking about for the future, which is we might start for mobile GIS, we might start for voice technology. And at the same time, COVID-19 is here, and I'm helping about many of the COVID-19 projects, which is very meaningful to the society. And that's what I learned. I think, the most important, you know what you need, and you try your best to adjust and find the solution. The solution might take a little while to find, but eventually you land up there.
Marikka, how about you?
Well, from my perspective, I don't have to balance a family, so that makes things easier, but also more difficult when it comes to maintaining a life-work balance, because I always want to push myself more, and make sure, put in that extra time to make sure I'm producing the best to my ability in the time that I have. But I have developed strategies to enable myself to get rest and recovery, to exercise, which is so important, especially nowadays when we're living this sedentary lifestyle, much more sedentary than we have in the past. So I have goals. I recently, in the summer, got a Fitbit, and so I've been enjoying setting goals with my Fitbit and making sure I stay active with steps and getting out and bike riding and setting milestone events like a big hike at Algonquin, or when the world was open, so, scheduling a symphony or something or a museum visit, or visit with friends, something that, basically I could have the motivation to get my work done and carve out that time to focus on my personal life. But with teaching, it's really difficult because, and teaching in a 10-month program, we have intensive in timelines and expectations, and the technology is changing. So we're constantly having to develop curriculum as we go to provide the students with the best learning experience. And so that's been a little bit challenging for me, but I also really enjoy mapping. I enjoy spatial analysis, and I enjoy creating things, creating presentations, I created a story map recently and a web app recently to facilitate some virtual field surveys for the pandemic. So I can sort of build the fun into my job, and then also get that rest in the summer, that focused, concentrated rest and recovery in the summer. But I still think it's important, yoga, getting out and walking, and just making it a routine so that you don't leave yourself out, and include that very important time for yourself. Because I always tell people, it's okay to step away from the computer and take that time for yourself, because you're still working and you're working through problems. And at the end of the day, you'll come up with a better solution because you've taken yourself into consideration, and it's important. So that's my point of view on that.
Debbie, how about yourself?
Oh, well, it's been challenging for me. During this whole COVID, I think our organization was pretty demanding on the type of support and needs that they needed from us as analysts. So it was hard. It took me a while to learn that, there's that need that your organization needs you to be there. But at the same time, you acknowledging when you do need to step away to also take care of yourself was really, and making time for that. And so what I try to do is try to step away and focus on decompressing and spending the little time that I had with my family, making sure that it was quality, that I did the things that I enjoy doing. I did a lot of cooking, a lot of organizing in the house. We were all locked down. So I think it's just not feeling guilty, maybe, because that's what I felt during certain times, that I was guilty, that maybe I should be working, maybe I should be doing this, but acknowledging that, no, this is part of what I need to do to be able to support my organization when they need me. Because if I'm not rested, if I'm not performing very well, then I'm of no use, right? So that's very challenging for everyone, especially during these times. I feel like everyone that I talk to, they're overwhelmed. They're working more than ever before. They're also working more because you're working from home. I feel that I work more than when I'm in the office. I'll get up more, I'll go talk to someone. So even making time to get up from my desk has been a challenge, and just acknowledging that it's necessary. I think that's important.
And Karen, how about you?
Well, I'm learning. In the past, I really had a hard time balancing my career and my personal life, but I have learned over the years that it is all about balance. So what do? I try to look forward to the projects and the deadlines that are presented to me throughout my organization and my job. I do manage 22 staff, but being the CIO at the City of Maple Ridge, I also have to manage the projects coming from other departments like engineering and planning, parks, finance, mayor and council, and more. So how do you manage that? I could work probably 16, 17, 18-hour days. I used to do that when I worked in my other jobs, especially at Esri Canada, because I was traveling, back and forth across the country. So I learned how to try to find time to schedule my work, prioritize my work, and then save some time for what was really important to me, my friends and family. And, I think Sabrina said that you learn to partner with others, you make friends, you have peers, you feed off each other, you need that break. I've always enjoyed when I came to Toronto to meet up with Marikka for our visits. I remember them fondly, and I look back at pictures and smile every time. So I do try to focus on continuous improvement and learning. Nowadays, there's a lot out there on the internet. So in your, take 5, 10, 15 minutes a day, maybe just to look at something new, look at the trends so that you can continually do well in your job. But even just to take 5 minutes to meditate, and sometimes I think people think you have to sit down, close your eyes, turn the lights off to meditate. Marikka had a really good point. It's just step away and you're thinking, but you could also think something peaceful or something to balance your day. I like to do 5-minute phone calls to my parents, my children. I have a new granddaughter, so even just hear her squeal on FaceTime halfway through the day is like enough of a break to get you going. And I guess in the end, life really is about balance. Work is really important, your career is really important, but in the end, your friends and family and your health are most important. So I have a new saying, life is about balance. Try to breathe in peace and breathe out happiness. And that's it.
Our next question is, what has been the most challenging hurdle or obstacle in your professional career so far? And let's switch things up. Debbie, how about you?
I would have to say that for me, it's been choosing the right education to follow. So, and I say that as I have, I am a seasoned GIS professional, but I never thought I would be. So if, for all people that are going to be tuning into this chat, it's very difficult to see yourself, what you're going to be doing, and what that career path should look like, and what education to follow. I never really know what I wanted to do, and I have to say, I always say I still don't know what I want to do. So I've tried all these different things. I've failed, I've succeeded in certain areas, but that doesn't mean that there were failures. And so right now I feel like, yes, I'm loving what I'm doing. I enjoy my career, but I will always be a student. So I love to always be taking a course to see where that will take me. I don't know where that's going to take me. I didn't know 10 years where I would be. So I'm hoping that that will take me, 10 years from now, I'll be somewhere different. I don't see myself doing the same thing. So I think that's a challenge for a lot of people. When you first come out of high school or university, what are you going to do with that, and what your career is going to look like? I think that is very difficult. And all I have to say is that no matter what you do, because it's happened to me, no matter what I did or what path I decided to take, I learned from it. So even though some were failures, most of them were successful, I always learned something really valuable. And so in that, especially in the GIS industry, I feel that there's so many ways that you can go, so many, specializations that you can take. But knowing where to go, it can be overwhelming. For certain people, and it was for me at the beginning. I wanted to do analysis, I wanted to focus on planning, and I did all sorts of things, and And so that's been the biggest challenge. Right now, I would say I am happy, but I'm always looking forward to the next thing. So I don't know where that's going to lead me to.
Karen, how about yourself?
For me, I think the biggest challenge I've had is learning to say no. I am always busy. I'm extra busy in my personal life, in my career, at work, at home. And sometimes I just want to help all the time, but I just don't have the energy or the time. So probably finding my way through my career steps along the years, but at the same time, learning what's important and what was maybe not so important, and something that not feeling guilty about saying no if you just didn't have the time, because people are very understanding. And it took me a long time to realize that I didn't have to be everything for everyone. And I should be the best I can in that moment and be happy where I was at. I have always strived to move up, move forward, move ahead. And I've always looked for the next best thing that I could do. But sometimes living in the moment is where you need to be. And I think that was my biggest challenge throughout my entire career, was finding that happy spot, staying there and thriving in it as long as possible, and then making a decision on where I wanted to go next, and then working towards that. So I think it took me a long time to figure that out. I've always enjoyed my jobs, but I've always struggled a bit as well, because I wanted to do more than potentially time or energy provided to me. So I think that would be my biggest challenge, was just learning when to say no and living in the moment.
Awesome. Thank you. Marikka, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with Karen. That's a good saying no has been very difficult throughout the many years, but I actually had a different angle when I was reflecting on this yesterday. I think one of my biggest challenges through the years has been promoting the value of GIS in an organization. And I've done it effectively, but it's been challenging for sure, because it takes time and effort to help people understand what GIS can do to benefit their workspace and build proof of concept to help them realize that, because it's really about realization. Because like when I first started working at a municipality, I was the first GIS person there, and I was proposing to migrate some of their workflows from manual measurements to automated processes. And that was really difficult for people to embrace that change. They're used to filling out a form. Now the form is going to be digital. It was a triplicate form. Digital isn't comfortable yet. And so there was a little bit of a challenge there, getting people to realize that they are still a valuable part of the process, but the technology can help support planning and being more effective and being able to be more balanced within the organization and increase communication. And that's just in the context of a municipality. When you get into consulting, it's even more challenging, because you don't have that focused workspace with this municipality around you that you're providing GIS services for. You have this whole world of possibilities. And my particular GIS team in Brisbane was underneath the environmental group umbrella. So we had a lot of environmental themes, like environmental impact assessments, or supporting that sort of work, or some sort of urban planning work. But there was also transportation and other types of work that needed attention. And there was always this need to help engineers understand how GIS fits into their workflow, and how can it complement their workflow and help them understand the impact of their design on the environment, for example. And then in the teaching role, it's not just promoting the value of GIS with the students and helping them see, you can basically do anything you want with GIS. You just basically have to find your niche, your theme. What do you like doing? There's so many ways to apply it. It's inspirational. It's exciting. but people don't always, like Debbie was talking about, they don't always know what they want to do. And there's so many things that they could do that it can be sometimes overwhelming. So trying to help them see the value in the context of their interests has been a challenge. And then I also see, particularly in the context of COVID, the value of GIS that could be realized at the college if we were utilizing it. And I was just thinking the other day, we really need a champion to bring GIS more to life as a part of campus operations, because I see so much value in it, and hopefully that will become realized in the future.
Sabrina, how about you?
So I think for me, the challenge is the personality perspective. Particularly myself, I'm a very shy girl. I'm not sure if any other new graduates will facing or experience a similar thing. For myself, I shy many things. When I first time, to start the work, I shy to ask a question because I feel every question I ask seems not really valuable. And later on, when I get familiar with my job, which technically okay, then I shy to talk to people. I say, every time I talk, I seems not really having the same interest as the topic of others. And later on, like right now, I shy to promote my work, shy to tell people what I can do and what I've been already doing. So all of those kind of things is because of the shy. I think the shy thing is one perspective is just personality, another perspective because I'm an immigrant. And I think the language itself may not be my first language. So whoever could be watching our video or watching our kind of, session, I just want to tell them Canada is a very open society place, and people will not really judge you because of your language barrier or because of you are not professional in English. So it's just open your mouth and really ask help. And a lot of times I get really positive, feedback, help, and the people are very friendly to give you a hand, regardless of what kind of question you have, either technical, personal, or just seek a kind of nice word. So a lot of people in our society are very, very nice, and they are willing to give you any help or even cherish you by wording. So that could be just a kind of experience sharing about my thing. And again, for now, I realize, don't treat yourself as really restrict. Shy is not a bad thing. So you shy, because you shy, you can focus on certain things. So it's always good and bad together, and be yourself and be confident.
Awesome. Thank you, Sabrina. And that was almost a perfect segue into our next question. You brought up asking for help and how important that can be for especially young professionals entering this industry. Our next two questions are kind of about mentorship. First, who inspired you? And have you had a mentor or mentors within your career? And what advice would you give to someone who's actively searching for a mentor? Why don't we start with Marikka?
Okay. So mentors, I've had many throughout my career. And I would say, I was trying to think of, the first one that really connected me to GIS, and that would have been Dr. Schoolmaster, who was the chair of the Geography department at the university where I was working on my master's degree. And he taught applied research and just really opened my eyes to the possibilities of GIS, and also was instrumental in recruiting me for a teaching assistant role. So that really was one of the factors that helped guide me path into my master's degree. And then Bruce Hunter, who was the head of the Center for Spatial Analysis at the university, brought to my attention the Esri Student Assistant Scholarship opportunity to go to the international conference and be a part of the Esri community to support the conference by working 20 hours a week and then staying at an accommodation, sharing a room with another student assistant who I still am friends with to this day. It was a lady from Venezuela, and it's neat. She's teaching as well now too, so it's kind of neat. Some of the people I met at that time, and of course I was completely inspired by all of the people presenting at the International Conference in San Diego, all of the ideas and examples of how GIS could be used. And then when I was hired at the city, I would have to say Mike Levitt. He was the public works manager. He's the person who hired me, later became city manager, and really grew GIS for the city and inspired me, sponsored me to go to conferences every year. And so that's where I met Karen at a EURISA conference. And she's been an awesome friend and mentor to me through the years, just by virtue of being my friend and visiting me whenever she's in the same area as I. And she's a wonderful role model in the GIS community. So that's been really inspirational to me. And I can't, I have to also say Lori Keeler-Faulkner, with respect to teaching, really helped me, adapt to that sort of, I guess, it's just a different lifestyle than consulting. Consulting, you have different expectations, a different pace of functioning, and teaching is very similar to consulting in some ways, but also she helped me, calibrate my teaching and my expectations in alignment with helping people evolve, and also mentored me in the geomatics and surveying course that I'm now teaching, that she's retired. And so I can't not mention Jack Dangermond. He's been a virtual mentor to me. I have what I call virtual mentors, people I follow on LinkedIn, people that are in, top in their field, cartographers and analysts, and people who are evangelists and understand GIS. And also in the professional organizations, I'm on the board of directors for Be Spatial, and I wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for Susan Mulem Kasamba, who recruited me into the role of Eastern Section Director, and Sandra Crutcher, who's the Executive Director for Be Spatial, who also has been supportive of me in that, and John Murphy, who has been supportive of me in being a Go Geomatics group leader. So all those people, just by their actions indirectly, have been mentors and impacted my life. And it really helps because it could, GIS is its own discipline, and people that work with GIS understand it. And it's really nice to have that community through professional networks. It's wonderful that these YPN groups are starting up. I think that's going to be a really wonderful opportunity for people to get connected. I can't say how valuable. I met Karen in 2007, and here we are in 2020. We're still friends, and it's just been a real blessing to me to have that friendship. And it wouldn't have been discovered without professional networking opportunities. So I can say there are many mentors. I reference them in my lectures, and try to stay connected to their work through social media channels.
Awesome. Thank you, Marikka. How about you, Karen?
Well, Marikka, thank you. I have you on my list as well as a mentor. So my very first inspiration as a mentor was my father. He is a mechanical engineer, so I was very interested in his career, and I always saw him as being so smart, and he was always on top of the next and latest, greatest thing. And when the metric system came into Canada, my dad applied and took a chance on a 2-year temporary role as the metric coordinator for government. So at a very young age, I was thrown into some new technology, new learning, and I think that helped me focus on continuous improvement and continuous learning. So that's what got me into this career role, like moving into GIS and technology. But my very first mentor, or true mentor, I would say, would be Terry Naylor. He was my first manager at the City of Surrey. He hired me, and he had this amazing vision for GIS. He was our municipal surveyor. I started out as a mapping person at a pretty young age, and he had this vision of building this puzzle, like this map, this accurate map of a land base, and making it as accurate as possible so that everything else that we did on top of that map would be accurate, and we could do analytics and make decisions. And I hate to say it, but that was way back in the 1980s. So he was this amazing inspiration to me, and to this day we still keep in touch. And it's turned more into how are you doing with your family, and on my end, because he's since retired, but from his perspective, he's asked continually checking up on me with my career. So that's pretty cool. I've also had many peer mentors. So one of them I can think of is Barbara Davey at the City of Surrey. She was from the IT side. I was from the GIS side, but we really collaborated and hit it off. And she was very big on in the MISA Professional Association, and I was really involved in ERISA. So we were able to bring those two together and have really good conversations about GIS and IT and how we could bring those two industries together. And we did a very good job in BC of bringing GIS and merging it with IT. I have Marikka down here, and Marikka's always been an inspiration to me. We hit it off through, as Marikka said, through ERISA event, shared association, shared love of GIS. And one of the biggest inspirations that, Marikka has provided to me was her not being afraid to take a chance. I can't even tell you how impressed I was when she kind of changed her life and moved to Australia to take a job. It's not something I would be comfortable doing. So that showed me that you can take a chance. It could be a small chance or a big chance, but you can take a chance in your career and still thrive and learn. I do find that professional associations are really, really important. Marikka mentioned how important those are. But I too had Jack Dangerman as a mentor, virtual mentor, but I had this great experience in the 90s where I was a young GIS person that integrated CAD and GIS, and I wrote a couple of papers on it, and this would be back in the 90s. I did some studies and did a bunch of analysis on how many projects going across a municipal employee's desk actually has a spatial location or a spatial reference. And I wrote a report about it. Jack Dangerman read my report and still uses some of my stats in his presentations today. But the most significant thing was I was invited down to an AEC Science and Technology conference in Florida. I was so inexperienced, and I was so young. I didn't travel anywhere because I worked in local government, and I was terrified. But I go to this conference down in Florida, and Jack Dangerman was the keynote presenter, and I was doing 2 workshops. I was doing one on CAD and GIS specifications, and another one on the marriage of CAD and GIS. And after Jack did his keynote, and he came and found me and says, "Karen, I understand you're doing these workshops. Would you like to go for a walk and grab a coffee?" And I was like, oh my God, it's Jack Dangerman. So I've always been, a big fan. I've presented with Jack. I've had a ERISA event with him on grant funding, and, I've worked for Esri Canada, so I've had the opportunity to get to know him. But he's a very inspirational person, and so virtually, even though I don't see him so much anymore, especially during COVID, and in my new role in local government, I won't see him as often. I do follow him, and as Marikka said, there's lots of virtual mentors. Another one is Chris North. When I was younger, I'm older than Chris, but I was still younger, and I always thought this guy is like the coolest guy. He's so smart technologically, but he's a great guy. And so I also follow his posts on Twitter and LinkedIn, and there's lots of virtual mentors as well. But for the second part of the question, I think if you're looking for a mentor as a young person, what you really want to do is find someone that you click with, someone that, you know, has a similar beliefs or aspirations as you. And if you're meeting with them or plan to meet with them once a month or however often, it has to be someone you believe in and respect, because otherwise you might not, it won't work, right? You know, in all the mentors I've had, I've believed in them, I've trusted them, I've respected them, whether they were a peer mentor or a higher level mentor that I looked up to. I think I find most of my mentors or peer mentors, people that I work with, you know, all the ladies on this panel, I would consider peer mentors at one time or another in my career. You know, I follow you all. Sabrina, I called her, you know, a month ago, right, to talk about voice technology. And Debbie, I follow and have always, she's been an inspiration to me, and Marikka as well. We all have very different careers, but I consider you all mentors. The other thing I would say is remember that a mentorship is a two-way street. It can't be just take. It has to be a give and take situation. And I think I've learned a lot from myself from being a mentor, because your mentees can teach you a lot as well. Sometimes we forget that, you know, the bright light that's in the younger people or people that are just learning and starting out, and it gets you excited, and it's a source of inspiration for yourself. So I think don't ever underestimate the power of mentorship and that collaboration between people.
Sabrina, how about yourself?
Yeah. And I think, you know, I'm still looking for mentorships, and also the working mentorship, which mentioned by Carrie and Marikka, is really important for everyone. And I think I'm the benefit of this kind of a working mentorship. And come back to my starting story, which is I started my GIS job from Israel, Canada. And unfortunately, my background is totally not GIS. I'm a pure IT person. And my first mentor is Amarin, which is my boss of my first job. And I totally don't remember why I sent a resume to Israel, Canada, since I'm not a GIS person. However, very luckily, I got an interview from the region, and none of the questions I can answer during the interview. But Amarin told me there is only one question I got right, which is, what are you going to do in the next 10 years? I personally don't know the answer. I just say maybe to become you. And I really think I'm very brave, and then take me. So that's how I entered the GIS world. And during you know, the time in the region, I really learned a lot. I kind of started not only the technology growth from many of my colleagues, but also starting to talk to client, work with the client, teaching courses, which is the, you know, really enrich myself, can do many different things, not only sitting there, do work or do project. I think that's part I always kind of cherish. And Amarin gave me a lot of not only opportunities and advice for my career. And one time I jump out and jump back, jump out again, jump back again. So, you know, she's always there and telling me, okay, what you really need and what is you are looking for. So she helped me a lot to understand myself and understand my career. Later on, I think many of the Israel, Canada colleagues could be my mentor. Like Carrie mentioned about Chris North. You know, Chris North is really, really kind of a hero in my world. So I didn't really work with him a lot when I was at Israel, Canada. However, after I kind of jumped out, and Chris also jumped out from Israel, Canada. So we both have different, really different paths to work ourselves. However, it's just because we've been kind of still chatting, connecting in the LinkedIn. And one day, Chris not just say, Sabrina, I have an urgent development thing. Do you want to help? And then I jump in, and then following his direction, I think I kind of learned what is the life to be a freelancer? How can I success through the freelancing? And when he go back, he kind of transferred almost every business to me. So I think it's not only business perspective, it's also kind of really inspires me about, okay, even I'm not native Canadian, I still can do many things. I still can make the clients happy. I still can help them to, get better or make projects done. And later, I decided to grow my own product, not only doing consultant. So I always kind of ask Chris about ideas. What should I do? What kind of, area which is GIS currently still have the hole which I can fill in. So he never really kind of showing bad face, or she's always really, really patient to, hey, Sabrina, how about this? And how about that? And a lot of my projects or products in my company right now, it's just because he kind of really always challenge me, always talking, always think that's something people are looking for, like the mobile, like the reporting tool. So I'm really proud about, what I do. At the same time, I'm really appreciate his help. And he also connect me with the people. So like Karen, we connect together just through Chris North, help me to know people and to kind of spread the ideas, get help, and all of those things. I think the mentorship, maybe everyone could be your mentor from a certain point. However, there must be some people really important for your every single path. But one thing, just like Karen say, you have to trust. You have to be really people and really, think that's the role model you are kind of respect. And I think that's also not only one way he always give you, also you show the appreciation, you show you are respect those things, those kind of advice, and really cherish the relationships between you and your mentor. So I think, responsibly, build the relationships with whoever either is higher or either is helping you, but with the trust relationship. That's the most thing, I think. And yeah.
How about yourself, Debbie?
So I think I'll echo a lot of the things that have already been mentioned, but I think when it comes to mentorship, you have to have mentorships that support your professional career, your emotional career, your mental health and all of that. So I think I couldn't have done anything that I've done if it wouldn't have been for my mom. And I know that's very basic. One of the things that she taught me was to be fearless, not be afraid of a challenge. And I think that I wouldn't be here if it weren't for that one little basic skill set, because especially when it comes to working in this industry, it's a tech industry, it's male dominated. There's more women now, but we're still kind of growing there, and you have to find that source of that person that gives you that encouragement that you can do it, and they're that source of strength and empowerment that you can do all of these things. So that has allowed me to kind of plunge into this industry and put myself in circumstances that I wouldn't normally do, that were beyond my comfort zone. And whether, and I mentioned it before, whether I've succeeded or failed, it didn't really matter. What mattered is what I learned along the way. But in terms of professional career, I would say that my very first job as a GIS person back at Statistics Canada, I had 3 major influencers in my life, GIS related. So Cheryl, Gerald, and Ian Williams. And we actually have a tradition that we call it our GIS field trip. And we used to, when we could go out for drinks or dinner, we would meet up, I think at least 2 to 3 times per year. And we call it our GIS trips, and we go and we sit down, and it's very necessary. So it's been 10 years, but we still keep that relationship. We still keep talking to each other about our careers, and I think that they made a big impact in my life. They pushed me to continue educating myself, continue to try new things. At the time, we were all working together there, and Ian Williams is my current manager right now, but I met him back when he was just an analyst, and I've seen his career throughout this last 10 years, and he's now the manager of an entire analytics unit, and he's a professor at Ryerson. He's doing all of these things, and that's been a really good resource for inspiration for me. And he supported my career along the way. So he was at some point my professor at Ryerson, and so I rely on him for a lot of things. But I think what Sabrina said was very important, that anyone can be a mentor, and you can learn things, from the very unlikely people. Like I've learned things. I think Karen had mentioned that you give, you're become a mentor, but they also end up mentoring yourself. And over the last little bit, we've had a lot of students come into our unit and just do their internships or their coursework, and I've learned a lot from students. And so just their eagerness to learn and their dedication, and so they've become a mentor as well. And I think that what's important about mentors, if you are interested in mentorship, is just really connecting with people, talking to them, asking questions about career, how's it going, what courses are you taking, what are you doing to grow, and you start to have those conversations, and then that person organically becomes a mentor for you. And I know that's really hard during these times where we're kind of disconnected from people, from meeting in person. So I'd say one of the things that you can do is just connect people. LinkedIn is a great resource. You want to find people, like Karen said, that you click with, that you relate to, that you might analyze their career, and something in their career might have sparked some interest, and you can reach out to that person and ask some questions about how they got there and the things that they did to get to where they are. And I think that's really important. I think I did that at the beginning of my career, where I saw women in management roles, and I'd go up to them and ask questions about, what did you do to get to where you are? Is there anything I can, help with? Volunteering is always a great thing. I've seen a lot of people recently that have volunteered, especially in our organization, and they've grown and developed. So you would find some mentors in a volunteer opportunity as well. So I say there's mentorship opportunities in every people that you meet every day. And Karen, you've also been a mentor, because I remember back in, I want to say 3 years ago, we were launching the Toronto Police Open Data Program, and someone at ESRI put me in contact with you, and ever since then, you have been a great inspiration, and I've seen, how you've grown in the industry. And so, yes, I follow your career, and you're a great mentor as well.
And a lot of you touched on the topic of networking, which flows right into our next question. And we got this from one of our socials. And the question is, networking when you're a new immigrant to Canada or a new professional can be challenging. COVID-19 has made it even more difficult as in-person networking opportunities have been put on pause. How do you recommend establishing meaningful connections to grow your professional community? I know that a lot of you have already touched on this a little bit, but if you can give us a bit more of a answer directed towards how to make that first step and connection, that would be great. So why don't we start with Karen?
Okay, great. I wanted to first say, Debbie, I loved your fearless inspiration. I do think that we all have to be a little bit fearless in this industry for sure. And I guess that leads into networking. You can't network unless you're fearless, especially now with COVID-19. There's so many people that have different, anxiety around COVID, and there's so many different rules. I know in BC, we're not allowed to gather more than 6 people outside of our own family unit, and the gathering has to be outside. So, I think as a new immigrant or a new professional in this industry, or even just anybody in this industry, the best place to network is through our professional associations. Typically in the past, the conferences and events would all be face-to-face. It's been challenging for any of these associations like MISA, EURISA, Public Works Association of British Columbia that I also belong to. There's so many associations out there, and I think it's just you need to find one that fits with you and fits with your beliefs and your career path, and then just reach out. I've had a lot of people reach out to me through EURISA asking, is it valuable? Should I join? How can I meet people? And I tell them I've met some of my best mentors, my best friends, my best colleagues through EURISA. The GISP network is something as well. I also belong to ASTTBC as an applied science technologist. They have events, online events. They have events for women. They have events for different technologies. It's a great way to go and meet people. And one of the things I thought about when Debbie was speaking is mentorships and meeting people isn't immediate. It grows organically. So I think through these associations, you meet someone and you can't just say, oh, hey, I want to be your mentor, right? You need to reach out and build a rapport, build a communication with several people. And then I think those mentorships grow. I think belonging to EURISA for me was one of the best things I ever did in my career. Over the years, I sat on the board of directors for EURISA International. I became the president of EURISA BC. I was the Canadian Association liaison for EURISA International for years. I still sit on the board of directors for EURISA BC. I think I've been on the board of directors for 20 years. I like to think I'm the matriarch now and inspire a lot of young people to join that association. And say enough about it. MISA is also one if you're an IT professional, and MISA also does have this great link now with GIS. So you couldn't go wrong with either of those professional associations. There's meetups that you can join. There's lots of meetups for your specific career industry or where you like to work or your interests. But there's also industries specific industry associations like the Public Works Association of BC. I joined that because I worked in engineering, and I tried to take the word of GIS, as Marikka said. It's very difficult to get engineers and other people to understand the value of GIS and the value of spatial analysis and data. So I tried to take that into that association, and over the years we've really made a great impact on the value of GIS for engineering operations, for engineering through the Public Works Association and asset management and that type of thing. So I would look at any kind of professional association that fits with your industry specific area. So whether it's planning or whether it's economic development, whether it's engineering, there's lots of associations out there. But if you're looking for an overall networking avenue, I would look at EURISA or MISA for GIS and IT specifically, but also LinkedIn is invaluable. There's so many people professionals that are on LinkedIn that you can reach out to, and everybody seems to be very willing to respond and help. So I will leave the rest to everyone else, but I do believe in networking through professional associations.
Debbie, how about yourself?
Okay, so I think Karen covered most of them, organizations. So those are the likely things that you're going to go out there and be part of. But so I have to admit that I did not like networking. As Sabrina said, I would say I still am to a certain extent a very shy person, and I am not the type to start a conversation or go up to someone. But with my role at TPS, it was all about open data, so that put me in a position where I was sort of forced to a certain extent to be a little bit more open and engage people and make connections. So other than the professional groups, what I found when I started to meet a lot of people, and I would, give this advice to someone, is that there's certain opportunities within your organization that will come up that you can take advantage of. So in your organization or outside of your organizations, there's conferences that you can volunteer to present on behalf of the organization if they allow you to. And that's how I met a lot of people outside of, in our GIS industry. So presenting for EURISA, like Karen said, and putting yourself out there was very, very frightening. To be honest, like the very first few presentations that I did were terrifying, to be in front of an audience and presenting or doing a workshop, but that's how you get yourself out there. Unfortunately, people are not going to come and look for you, so you have to put yourself out there and volunteer to give a workshop or to create a training, and then the word starts to get out, and then it's like a little spider web. You start to develop your connections, and then someone saw a presentation that you did, and so you'll get invited somewhere else, and so you start to meet a lot of people. And I think that's an out of the box sort of networking opportunity. But there's always something in your organization that you can do, or things that will come up where you can say, okay, I volunteer to do this, even though it might be scary, or you might think that you can do it. You can do it, and you will start to meet a lot of people and learn also develop as a professional, right? Like my presentation skills at the beginning, I used to, sweat and get all red, and I probably still do, but I hide it better. So I think that's one of the things that some of our young people can do to meet new people. And now, I guess with COVID, that stuff can still happen because everything is virtually. So I was very disappointed that we couldn't go to San Diego because I had for the ESRI user conference there. because I had volunteered to present for the first time. Like, you know, you're in your career as a GIS person and you get to present as your user conference in San Diego. That's huge, right? You can't top that almost. And I was very disappointed that I didn't get to go, but I still did it. I did it through recording, and people still add me on LinkedIn after that or reached out by email. So that's something that, you know, you can do.
Marikka, wow, what would your advice be?
So yes, I agree with Debbie and Karen both. There are a lot of organizations, and choosing an organization that is thematically related to your interest, I would also recommend. And then there's the overarching ones like ERISA. I was a member of GITA because we had a local chapter when I lived in Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they also had a South Central ARC users group. And here in Ontario, they have an Ontario ARC users group, Eastern ARC users group. And I just discovered that fairly recently after Be Spatial. And I discovered Be Spatial through GeoMatics. So it really started, I discovered GeoMatics because there was a local group that was established by a young lady named Dana Ashcroft, and she started the group in Peterborough, and I just saw the announcement and I showed up, and I think and she led the group for 2 years, and then when she moved, I took over the role of leading the group. And in that role, I also met and discovered Be Spatial, met Susan, who recruited me to Be Spatial, and then discovered a lot of organizations that I didn't even know were there, even though they were right next door. And when I learned about the Eastern Ontario ARC users group, I attended their annual meeting and and I gave a 15-minute presentation on, you know, opportunities to collaborate with Fleming College for the collaborative project. And also we have a mini special project for the municipal mapping and GIS course that I facilitate to connect students with people working in real world GIS municipal roles. And so I think it's all about showing up. You show up, and I was sitting in a seminar in the ERISA conference where I met Karen. It was Washington, D.C. I didn't know anybody. I was sitting in a pre-workshop seminar with Peter Croswell was leading that seminar. And this gentleman was sitting next to me, and he was from Australia. And we just chatted, you know, a little bit. Who are you? Where are you from? And he was, you know, all the way from Australia, so he's excited to be there. And I told him, you know, well, originally I'm from Canada. And he's like, oh, I have a friend from Canada. Her name's Karen, and we've actually a group of friends, and we're all going to go out for dinner later. So would you like to join our group? And that whole week we were like a roving dinner party group, and all got to know each other and do the social events. And so that was really fantastic pre-COVID networking, and it connected me to the job in Australia. It connected me to lifelong friends, and I feel like, you know, it was all about me showing up and being enthusiastic about getting involved. And even though I didn't know anyone, it was that one little friendly conversation that led to another friendly conversation. And, you know, or even if you're at a conference and you go talk to the vendors and learn more about the kind of services they provided, that's a networking opportunity that we can't do right now. But there are virtual conferences, which I love, actually thinking about the COVID, like how can we seize the opportunity to get more involved in those conferences we might not otherwise be able to attend. I've always wanted to attend the North American Cartography Information Society conference, but it's in October and it's during a busy time when I'm teaching, so it's not easy for me to just, you know, jump in a plane and fly to wherever they are. So I was really thrilled to get to attend virtually this year, and they had, you know, organic socials where, you know, they tried to organize it to where people would talk, and then just by tweeting, then people, you know, you connect by tweeting, and then people, you know, retweet your tweet, and you feel connected, and eventually you build rapport with them. So I feel like just either showing up to the virtual conferences. Hopefully, face-to-face conferences will reemerge in the future, and when they do, we'll say, just show up and be engaged and be interested. I saw a GIS success interview with Jack Dangerman, and he said that's something that he learned was to be interested rather than be interesting. And I just thought that was really valuable advice, and learn about people. And Stephen Covey would say, seek first to understand and then to be understood. So when you do show up, opportunities will arise.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Sabrina, how about yourself?
Yes, I think regarding the networking, I think I probably already kind of think myself still learning in that part. And I'm not really kind of good in the networking. However, because of the business or because of the role I play my own business, I kind of learned something in certain point. And I think the most tool I use is LinkedIn. So I feel there's a lot of great people in GIS area, and they are really willing to connect. They are willing to help, give you ideas, and doing things together. And that's LinkedIn. And recently, because of the COVID-19, I think Facebook is also a good channel. And I was thinking Facebook is just for personal socialization. However, because of the COVID-19, I and my business partner, we kind of put COVID-19 alert system through the Facebook by the business channel. So a lot of people just follow us and subscribe. And I found that's a good source. You can connect with the people who are doing similar things together. So I feel it's very kind of useful. And it is like a one-time effort. You are really getting long-term returns, not only, just because the one project that they could be lead into many different topics through that. Another place I found is also very useful is the Israel GIS marketplace. I'm not sure if many of you have been using it a lot because I'm the business partner with Israel. So we use the Israel marketplace to place our products into there and open to the rest of the world. And I can see every daily, people subscribe, unsubscribe, and doing different activities. So through that channel, I can know who is more using the tools, who is more interested. Then it's a focused connection. And a lot of times I noticed when you chat to them, they will give you some feedback about what you need to prove, what they are looking for. So I think that's a good channel for myself as well. And from my personal past background, again, I'm shy, but I feel, the people around you are also really good resource of connecting, networking, channel you should not always ignore. And all my good kind of connections is really coming from my colleague. So it's your kind of networking with your colleagues is always be really warm and really closed, and the trust is already there, and you don't need to worry about many other things. And through the colleague, they might be introduced many different things to your life. It's going to be a real life thing. It's not always virtual. And another thing I've been trying is show up, which Marikka, Debbie, Karen, they all emphasize, yes, show up yourself. And I'm also putting myself to be a volunteer for the next Israel User Conference. And hopefully that's going to be a real conference. So I kind of planning a workshop there and demonstrate the work, okay? That's I think is going to be a big milestone, a big step for myself. And I also encourage anyone who want to be more open to the world can be volunteer to different organizations or associations. And I was the volunteer for EURESA and trying to organize different things when I was, back to probably 7 or 8 years ago. I didn't benefit from it. Even right now, many of the connections, I still can just send email, ask questions, and seek advice. So that's a really valuable experience and time you be spent there.
A lot of you have already answered this question, but I'll briefly ask, what is the most appropriate way to approach a professional like yourself on any networking platform? And what platform do you prefer to use for your professional connections? Sabrina?
So in working life, I like to use LinkedIn. I really kind of in my daily life, half hour been spending time every day there and looking around and talk to people. And in the real situation, I like all the kind of association. I think EURESA is a good one. User conference is a good one. So try your best to not miss them.
Awesome, thank you. Debbie?
I mean, I think LinkedIn. I think the LinkedIn is designed to be that professional platform, right? So I think that if you were to reach out to someone in that platform, maybe do a little bit of research before you do as to why you're reaching out, so that when you do, you kind of have some thought out questions and reasons for reaching out. I personally have not reached out to anyone there, but there were times where something was posted and I had questions about it. So that's an opportunity, right? So when somebody posts something, an article or at job postings, I did a lot of that. When people post a lot of job postings there, I'll ask questions about what is his role, articles, certain things that were happening in the organization. Maybe that can spark a conversation rather than coming so forward. But if you do come forward, I would say research and have good reasons for reaching out to that person. I've had personally a lot of people reach out, especially when we had job postings, and I think people just they will appreciate the fact that you're reaching out and ask if they have time for a quick call to discuss opportunities in their organization, or just ask them about. I've had people ask me about a career. They're exploring a career in crime analyst, and they just want to know what path to take or what courses to take. Even just GIS, I've had a couple of people ask me, I'm interested in taking some GIS courses. What school do you recommend? So I think that it's a good platform to do that, as long as you have thought out questions beforehand, so that they know, the person knows why you're reaching out to them.
Awesome, thank you. Karen?
Okay, I do think that LinkedIn is also one of the better places to reach out, but one of my suggestions would be to look for shared contacts. And if you find someone on LinkedIn that has the same interest as you, I would always look for a shared contact. It's sometimes easier to ask your shared contact to introduce you to that person, and then you have a mutual connection. And because sometimes when, like in my case, if someone's so busy, especially since I became CIO at City of Maple Ridge, I get requests all the time, every day on LinkedIn. And a lot of times they don't have an explanation. So I say, oh, do I want to, connect with that person or not? Is it valuable to me? But if someone reaches out to me, I just recently had a gentleman reach out to me saying his daughter is thinking of getting into the science and technology industry, would it be okay if he introduces me to her because he thinks I would be a good resource for her? Well, of course, I'm going to say yes, right? Because there was such a nice, kind introduction. So I would say a couple of tips: look for shared connections, ask for and if they would mind giving you an introduction. And if not, I agree with Debbie, please put an explanation on why you're reaching out, because that always is more well received than just a connection. The other thing is, I know that the Applied Science Technologist Association and some of the other associations are really trying hard to inspire young people to get into the STEM industries. So there is the Let's Talk Science page with a lot of profiles, career profiles on there. I have one on there, and that seems to be a really great place for young people to look, find someone that has a career similar to where you might want to be or where you want to go, and it's a great place to reach out to someone as well.
Marikka.
All excellent points, and I really like that shared connection idea and asking a person to introduce you. I think that's an excellent idea, and it's a nice way to sort of referee that mentor connection. I was just thinking when I was reflecting on this question that time is limited. And so the doing the research, thinking about why, making it meaningful is really, and I think, an important part. And also, I do agree LinkedIn would be my recommended professional connection platform. I do like to follow people on Twitter and retweet their tweets, and I probably do that more frequently. Twitter's sort of my me time, where I'm still sort of doing work and looking at all the latest and greatest creations and things like that. But if I really like it, I'll share it on LinkedIn. So it sort of filters through my Twitter into the LinkedIn, and then I check into LinkedIn every once in a while, although I probably should more often, and review what's happening there and share what's happening there. I know Be Spatial is developing a mentor program, and so I would also check with organizations and find out if they have a mentor program nested within the organization, because those would be more people that have agreed to take on that role and have allocated time to provide support of greater depth, perhaps, than just asking a few questions of a person who's a professional in the industry. But I definitely think, doing your research is a huge component of this question. It's important to do that and be intentional and purposeful in that. And that's my point of view.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And finally, to close out our discussion, I think this is one of the most important questions we have, and it is, what piece of advice do you have for women who have just entered the GIS industry and want to make a positive impact within their organizations? So Sabrina, why don't you start?
Okay. So I think, if you want to make a positive impact to either your organization or the life being surrounding you, and the most important is yourself show a positive attitude. And as long as you show your positive attitude, you show many kind of, willing to grow or willing to help, and the opportunity will be around you, and for a long time you will get there.
Awesome, thank you. And Marikka, how about yourself?
So I summed it up, but I have a little bit of explanation. My sum up was: be positive, be patient, be proactive, and be polite. So I feel like, you do, just like Sabrina said, you have to first start with a positive attitude before you can make a positive impact, right? And so make sure you're nurturing yourself, having that personal time where you are reflecting. Reading is something I didn't mention earlier, but it's really nice to have books to escape into a different place, or to reinforce positive thoughts throughout the years, and particularly there was a pretty large time span between my master's degree and working in consulting in Australia, when my time zone was opposite of many of the people that I knew. So I had a lot of time. Well, not a lot, because I was consulting, so I was doing a lot of work and working long hours, but still, I had time to reflect. And I daily would spend time with positive, inspirational quotes, trying to find inspirational quotes, sometimes thematic, sometimes just read out of a book, a few pages from an inspirational book I really like. Anne Morrow Lindbergh has written a lot of books that I really like that are inspirational. And also just, encourage you to make that positive impact. Being patient with the process, a positive impact does not happen overnight. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes proactive presence. So being present, showing up, sharing that positivity, doing workshops like Debbie said earlier to make that impact so people can see what GIS can do, and then that can evolve into other positive manifestations of GIS in the organization. And I feel like doing those presentations, making it a practice, talking to people, and being polite, with respect to, I think that really ties back into the patience part of the process, honoring people's time, making it count, and being proactive.
Awesome, thank you. And Debbie?
So I've summed up my advice into 3 things, mostly because I wish that someone 10 years ago would have shared this with me. And the first one is to diversify your skill sets, because I know that this is a GIS industry, but knowing and having an understanding of the rest of the business and all of the processes that happen in your organization are going to place you, you're going to be out there and you're going to be tasked with important projects. So in the latest years, the GIS skills are important. They're not to say that they're not. I think you develop those as you do the work. You are already in the industry, you already know your basics, and they will continue to grow as you're doing the work. But learning about project management, information management, data governance, especially if you're working in government, all of the policies in place, everything that's happening in the world, for IT and all of the things related, learning about agile software development. And also what's been helpful for me is learning about innovation and design thinking. Over the last year, I learned a lot about that. It just puts you in this position where you are the person to go to for a lot of the things. You go into a meeting and you have a clear understanding of not just GIS, you understand everything that's happening in your organization. And you don't have to be an expert at all of those things, but taking a course, attending a workshop is pretty good enough so that you can gain, you can even understand just the terminology. Like in my very first role, I had no idea about all of these processes and policies and all of these things. So had I had that one person to tell me, you should learn and, understand the policies, everything that's happening in the government and all of those things, I would have probably not struggled this much or not look so lost as I did back in the day. So I think just diversify your skill sets is a good advice. And also seek discomfort. I always like that, because I think that you get to a point where you're comfortable and in your role and you're doing the same thing over and over again and you're safe. And I think that the learning only happens when you're challenged, when you say, okay, I've done this process a million times, how can I do it better? Because now you're seeking that discomfort where you're going to mess everything up. You're probably going to, destroy your workflow. But in in search for that discomfort, in search for that optimization for whatever it is that you're looking for, you're going to learn. And so you have to constantly keep doing that. And at some point, I got too comfortable and I felt like I was either bored or not learning. But that learning and that development and growth only happens when you're seeking that discomfort and challenging yourself. And the last thing, I said it before, just to be fearless of seeking that discomfort, fearless of learning new terminologies or new processes, not just within your division or your area where you work, but everywhere else in your organization, learning about how things work. I think it's very important, and for that you have to not be as afraid of stepping up and showing up, like we just said, or asking questions. So I think that's very important. So be fearless.
Awesome. Thank you. And Karen, just to wrap up here.
Okay. Well, I really like the messages from all of the ladies so far. I tend to resonate with Debbie. My biggest message is find your own way, but don't ever underestimate the power of you. Most of us never fully realize the great impact we have on people each and every day throughout our daily lives, through our work day, through our personal lives. The most important thing I've learned in my career at my job is to keep in mind that everybody's role in your organization is important. None of us could do our jobs properly if we didn't have all of the other connecting jobs or the connecting roles throughout your organization. So in order for you to be successful, to have a biggest impact in your organization, we all have to work together to accomplish the project, the organizational goals, or the strategic deliverables for that moment or that organization. So always remember, if you're new, you're just starting out in your career, remember that education you learned at university or college, or your technical environment. But take that into your organization, learn the business, and try to make improvements on those workflows. So I think what helped me the most in my career was I took my technology and my education, but I started learning the business, and not just my business, but business throughout the organization. I learned the different workflows in engineering and operations and planning and parks and throughout local government, which really helped me see the big picture. I always ask why, and I realized over the years that it's okay to make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. Nobody gets it right the first time. Well, if you're lucky, you do. But a mistake is fine as long as you grow from it and you learn. The other thing I learned is don't wait too long to innovate. So many people and so many organizations are risk adverse, and technology changes so fast that if you wait too long, the next thing is going to be out there. Technology is going to be different, and you may have lost your opportunity. So be passionate about what you do. Try to automate anything that you do the same over and over and over, day after day. It may take you a little bit longer to develop that process, but in the end, it will be better for your organization, and you'll have a bigger impact on the people around you. The other thing, listen. Learn from others. The chances are there's someone else out there that has already done what you're trying to do. They've done something similar. So all you need to do is find it and then improve upon it. So Thomas Edison said, there's a way to do it better, find it. And that's how I feel.
Thanks for joining us, and stay tuned to the YPN, because in 2021, we'll be releasing more panel discussions.